Long before science gave humanity answers, the moon filled people with a deep and almost primal fear. Some believed it silently watched their sins, while others thought it commanded death or could slowly steal a person's sanity. But that is not the strangest part of this story. Tens of thousands of years ago, someone looked up at the moon and asked a question that no other living creature had ever asked before. What is that? That simple question became a tiny spark that would eventually transform the entire course of human history. Wolves react to the full moon. Bats navigate through darkness. Countless animals respond to moonlight because it changes the world around them. But across 4 billion years of life on this planet, only one species looked toward the night sky and wanted to understand what it was seeing. And humans did this long before the first cities appeared, before written language existed, even before the birth of agriculture. Inside ancient caves across southern France and northern Spain, archaeologists discovered engraved bones dating back more than 40,000 years. For decades, researchers dismissed the mysterious lines carved into them as random scratches with no deeper purpose. But those marks were not random at all. They appear to have been some of humanity's earliest records of the lunar cycle. Someone had carefully watched the moon change night after night, tracked its phases for months, and carved the pattern into bone so the information would not disappear. Think about what that truly means. In a brutal and unpredictable world, a human sat beside a fire and spent precious time studying the sky instead of searching for food or protecting themselves from predators. And this was not an isolated discovery. In Africa, researchers found the Ishango bone, an artifact created roughly 20,000 years ago. Its unusual number sequences are believed by many experts to represent another early lunar calendar. In Turkey, Göbekli Tepe was built more than 12,000 years ago with massive pillars that appear to align with specific astronomical events. People without writing, metal tools, or even the wheel deliberately connected their most important structures to the sky. But why would they do that? The official explanation sounds surprisingly practical. The moon gave early humans a reliable way to measure the passage of time. Its cycles helped them anticipate tides, follow animal migrations, and identify the best moments to hunt. In a world without clocks or printed calendars, understanding the moon could mean the difference between finding food and starving. Evidence from Paleolithic coastal settlements supports this possibility. Fishing and gathering patterns in these communities often appear closely connected to different lunar phases. The earliest astronomy probably did not begin as religion or philosophy. It began as a tool for survival. But this explanation leaves behind one major problem. It tells us why early humans watched the moon, but it does not explain why they eventually began turning it into a symbol. Ancient lunar records were not always created as simple tools for measuring time. They were decorated, painted beside animals, included in ceremonies, and sometimes placed inside burial sites. At some unknown point in our distant past, the moon stopped being merely useful and began to represent something much deeper. No one knows exactly when or why that transformation occurred. Perhaps language allowed humans to give meaning to what they saw above them. Perhaps it began when people first understood that death was unavoidable, or maybe discovering repeating patterns in the sky permanently changed the way the human mind experienced reality. But there is an even more unsettling possibility. The moon may have been the first true mystery our species ever tried to solve. In 2004, archaeologist Francesco Derrico presented a fascinating interpretation after examining artifacts like the Ishango bone. He argued that these objects revealed a form of intelligence unlike anything seen in other animals. This was not intelligence used to escape immediate danger or solve a problem in the present moment. It was the ability to preserve information that might become valuable days, months, or even generations later. In other words, humans had created an external form of memory. Knowledge no longer had to remain trapped inside a single person's mind. It could be stored outside the body and passed forward through time. And what makes this discovery especially revealing is where humans first directed that extraordinary ability. Not toward food, not toward weapons, not even toward the predators surrounding them. They directed it toward the sky and toward something they could see but never touch. Later, research connected to the Max Planck Institute identified similar patterns on bones separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years. Different cultures repeatedly developed comparable methods for recording lunar cycles. It was almost as though humanity, scattered across the planet, had become captivated by the same ancient obsession. And perhaps that shared obsession makes perfect sense. The moon did something no other object in the night sky displayed so clearly. It changed its shape, faded away, and then returned. It seemed to die and somehow come back to life. To early humans, it probably did not look like a lifeless rock floating through empty space. It may have appeared alive, almost like a celestial being connected to time, nature, birth, and death. Even today, the human body seems to carry faint traces of that ancient connection. The average menstrual cycle lasts almost exactly as long as one complete lunar cycle, about 29.5 days. Scientists still do not know whether any direct biological connection truly exists, but this striking similarity has fascinated entire cultures for thousands of years. And perhaps that reveals the deeper reason the moon captured the human imagination so completely. Maybe people were drawn to it not simply because it was useful, but because it became the first visible mirror of time. It showed that the world was constantly changing according to patterns that could not be seen or controlled. Then, somewhere in humanity's distant past, something extraordinary happened. Inside a forgotten cave, tens of thousands of years ago, someone stopped merely counting the passing days. That person began asking questions with no immediate value for survival. What is the moon? Why does it change? Will it return after disappearing? These questions may sound simple to us now, but that moment could have marked the birth of something entirely new in the universe. The strangest quality of human beings is not intelligence itself. Many animals are intelligent. What makes humans different is our need to ask questions we may never be able to answer. And even when no answer appears, we continue searching. If the movement of the moon was among the first things humans chose to record for future generations, then perhaps human history truly began there. It began the first time something in the universe looked beyond itself and felt an overwhelming desire to understand where it was.